August 5, 1916, Cleveland, Ohio. A tunnel is on fire. 20 feet below Lake Erie, the Cleveland Waterworks Tunnel No. 5 is filled with smoke, gas, and flames. 32 men are trapped inside. The air is toxic. Every rescue attempt has failed. Men go in. Men don't come out. The fire chief stands at the entrance, helpless. They've lost 2 rescuers already. He can't send more men to die. And then someone says, "Call Garrett Morgan." "Who?" the fire chief asks. "The inventor." He has that breathing device, the smoke hood thing. At 2 a.m., Garrett Morgan gets a phone call. There's been an explosion. Men are dying. Can he help? He doesn't hesitate. He grabs his invention, a canvas hood with a long tube that reaches down to the floor where cleaner air settles, and he runs. When he arrives at the tunnel, the scene is chaos. Smoke pouring from the entrance, families screaming, bodies being carried out. Garrett puts on his hood. His brother Frank puts on another. And they go in, into the smoke, into the toxic gas, into the tunnel that has already killed 2 rescuers. They stay down there for 20 minutes. They drag out survivor after survivor. Unconscious men, burned men, men who would have died without them. Garrett makes 4 trips into that tunnel, 4 times into hell and back. By the time the sun rises, 32 men are alive because of him. The newspapers explode with the story. Hero saves dozens in tunnel disaster. Inventor's device saves lives. Garrett Morgan becomes famous overnight. Orders for his safety hood pour in from fire departments across the country for exactly 3 days. And then someone asks, "Wait, Garrett Morgan, is he colored?" Yes, he was black. And just like that, the orders stopped. Fire departments cancelled contracts. Cities that had praised him suddenly went silent. His life-saving invention, proven in the worst possible conditions, was rejected because of the color of his skin. So Garrett did what he had to do. He hired a white man to pretend to be the inventor, to do sales presentations while Garrett stood in the back, pretending to be the assistant. The white man demonstrated the device, took the credit, made the sales, and Garrett Morgan, the actual inventor, the man who saved 32 lives, stood quietly in the corner. This worked for a while. Until it didn't. When the truth came out, the contracts were cancelled anyway. By 1920, Garrett had sold only a fraction of the safety hoods he should have sold. His invention was brilliant. It worked. It saved lives. But America wasn't ready to buy life-saving equipment from a black man, so Garrett moved on. He invented something else, something he thought would be impossible to ignore. The traffic light. Not just any traffic light. The first 3-position traffic signal. Red, yellow, green. The system we still use today. He patented it in 1923. It was revolutionary. Cities were desperately looking for solutions to traffic accidents. People were dying at intersections. Garrett's invention could save thousands of lives. In 1923, General Electric approached him. They wanted to buy the patent. Garrett, exhausted from years of fighting, accepted. The sale price, $40,000. It sounds like a lot. It wasn't. Within 5 years, GE had made tens of millions of dollars from traffic signals. Within 20 years, the 3-position traffic light was in every city in America. Garrett Morgan got $40,000. General Electric got an industry. But here's the cruelest part. Even that wasn't really $40,000. After taxes, legal fees, and debts from his failed safety hood business, Garrett walked away with almost nothing. He died in 1963, blind, nearly forgotten. The same year, GE's traffic control division was worth over $100 million. But to understand how Garrett Morgan became a man who saved dozens of lives and still died with nothing, we need to go back to the beginning, to Kentucky, 1877, to a boy born into a world that didn't want him to succeed. Garrett Augustus Morgan was born on March 4, 1877, in Claysville, Kentucky. His parents, Sidney and Elizabeth Morgan, had been enslaved. They were freed after the Civil War, but freedom didn't mean equality. Kentucky in the 1870s was barely different from slavery. Black families couldn't vote, couldn't own property in most areas. couldn't get education beyond the most basic level. Garrett was one of 11 children. His family was poor, desperately poor. At age 6, Garrett started working, helping his father with odd jobs. By age 14, he'd had only 6 years of elementary education. That was it. 6th grade. That's all the formal education Garrett Morgan ever received. At 14, he left home. Walked to Cincinnati with nothing. He needed work. Real work. He found a job as a handyman, then another as a sewing machine repairman. He was good with his hands, obsessively good. If something was broken, Garrett could fix it, and if it could be improved, he'd figure out how. At 18, he moved to Cleveland, Ohio. Slightly better opportunities for black workers. Still terrible, but slightly better. He got a job at a sewing machine factory. He wasn't a machinist. Black men weren't allowed to be machinists. He was a repair adjuster, but Garrett watched everything, learned everything. At night, he'd sketch improvements, better belt designs, more efficient needle mechanisms, ways to prevent thread from tangling. In 1907, at age 30, he opened his own sewing machine repair shop. This was extraordinary. A black man owning a business in 1907 Cleveland was almost unheard of. The obstacles were immense. Banks wouldn't lend to him. Suppliers wouldn't sell to him at fair prices. White-owned businesses refused to be customers, but Garrett persisted. He built a reputation for being the best. If your machine was broken, Garrett could fix it. Period. Within 2 years, he'd saved enough to expand. He opened a tailoring shop. Then he hired dozens of workers and started manufacturing his own line of clothing. Garrett Morgan, the son of freed slaves with a 6th grade education, was running a successful manufacturing business. He married Mary Ann Hasek, a Bavarian immigrant. An interracial marriage, illegal in many states, dangerous everywhere. They didn't care. They built a life together, and Garrett kept inventing. In 1912, he was working with a sewing machine when he noticed the friction from the needle was causing the thread to scorch. He was trying to develop a solution, a liquid that would reduce friction. He wiped the solution on a piece of cloth to test it. The cloth was made of wiry, coarse wool fiber, textured, rough. After applying Garrett's solution, the fibers straightened. He stared at it. That wasn't supposed to happen. He tested it again. Same result. The solution straightened fibers. He tried it on his neighbor's dog. The dog had curly fur. After application, the fur straightened. And then Garrett realized this could straighten human hair. At the time, black Americans faced immense pressure to conform to white beauty standards. Straightened hair was seen as more professional, more acceptable. It was painful, damaging, but it was economic survival. Garrett's solution worked. It straightened hair without the worst of the burning chemicals others used. He founded the G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company, sold his hair straightening cream by mail order. It became hugely successful in black communities. The profits funded his next invention. By 1914, Garrett had been reading about industrial accidents, fires in factories. Miners trapped underground, workers dying from smoke inhalation. The problem was always the same: toxic air. Firefighters would rush into burning buildings and collapse. Miners would try to escape gas-filled tunnels and suffocate. What they needed was a way to breathe clean air in a toxic environment. Garrett started experimenting. He understood that in a smoke-filled room, the cleanest air is near the floor. Heat and smoke rise. Cooler, cleaner air settles below. So he designed a hood. A canvas hood that fit over the head, with a long tube extending down to floor level. The tube had a wet sponge filter to cool and clean the air even further. It was simple, brilliant, and it worked. In 1914, he patented it as the Morgan Safety Hood and Smoke Protector. He started demonstrating it publicly. He'd enter a tent filled with toxic smoke, wearing his hood, and stay inside for 20 minutes while the audience watched. He'd emerge, perfectly fine. Fire departments were interested. Very interested. But then they'd learn Garrett was black, and the interest would vanish. So Garrett hired a white man, a local businessman, to pose as G.A. Morgan, inventor. Garrett would attend the demonstrations disguised as Big Chief Mason, a supposed Indian assistant. He'd be the one actually wearing the hood and going into the smoke, but the white man got the credit. It was humiliating, degrading, but it worked. By 1916, fire departments in several cities had purchased the Morgan safety hood. And then came August 5th, the tunnel explosion. The Cleveland Waterworks Tunnel No. 5 was being dug beneath Lake Erie. A gas pocket ignited. The explosion was catastrophic. Workers trapped. Toxic gas everywhere. 2 rescuers already dead from trying to save them. Someone remembered Garrett Morgan's invention. When Garrett arrived at the scene, he didn't have time for disguises. He didn't have time to find a white man to pretend to be the hero. He put on his hood. His brother Frank put on another. And they went in, 20 feet below the lake, into smoke so thick you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, into gas so toxic it had already killed multiple men. Garrett made 4 trips, 4 times into that tunnel. Each time he dragged out survivors, unconscious men, men who had given up hope. By dawn, 32 men were alive. The newspapers went wild. Garrett Morgan was a hero, a genius, a savior. The city of Cleveland gave him a gold medal. The International Association of Fire Engineers praised his invention. Orders poured in from across the country. And then, within a week, someone pointed out that Garrett Morgan was black, and everything stopped. Fire departments that had placed orders cancelled them. Cities that had praised him went silent. The International Association of Fire Engineers, who had just honored him, quietly removed his name from their records. The Cleveland newspaper that had called him a hero ran a new story. Questions raised about tunnel rescue. They didn't say what the questions were. They didn't have to. Garrett tried to continue selling the safety hood, but it was impossible. Southern cities refused outright. Northern cities made excuses. When World War I began in 1917, the U.S. military needed gas masks for soldiers going into chemical warfare. Garrett's design was perfect, proven, life-saving. The military used his design. They modified it slightly and called it something else. Garrett received no credit, no payment, no recognition. His safety hood, the invention that saved 32 lives, that should have saved thousands more, was stolen by the institution meant to protect American lives. By 1920, Garrett had sold only a few hundred units. He should have sold hundreds of thousands. His business collapsed. He was in debt. But he wasn't done inventing. By 1922, automobiles were everywhere, and so were accidents. Traffic intersections were chaos, no signals, no rules, just cars and pedestrians and hope. People died every day. Some cities had installed basic traffic signals, stop and go, red and green. But they were dangerous. The problem, when the light switched from green to red, there was no warning. Cars would slam on brakes. Rear-end collisions were constant. Garrett witnessed a serious accident at an intersection near his shop. A car ran a red light. Another car, caught off guard, swerved and hit a pedestrian. He watched the woman die on the street. That night, he started sketching. What if there was a third position? A yellow light, a warning between stop and go, a moment to prepare. Red, stop. Yellow, prepare to stop. Green, go. 3 positions. Simple. Obvious in retrospect. But nobody had done it. Garrett built a prototype, a T-shaped pole with 3 positions. It could be manually operated or automated. He installed one at the intersection near his shop. Accidents dropped immediately. He filed for a patent in 1923. U.S. Patent 1475074. Granted. Garrett knew he couldn't manufacture and sell these himself. He'd tried that with the safety hood. He knew how it would go. So when General Electric approached him with an offer to buy the patent, he accepted. The sale price $40,000. In 1923, that was a decent amount of money, about $700,000 in today's dollars. But here's what it wasn't: fair. Within 2 years, GE was manufacturing traffic signals for cities across America. Within 5 years, the 3-position traffic signal was standard in every major city. By 1930, GE's traffic control division was one of its most profitable units. By 1950, traffic signals were a multi-billion-dollar global industry. Garrett Morgan got $40,000. Once, no royalties, no percentage. No recognition. And even that $40,000 didn't last. Garrett owed money from his failed safety hood business. He had legal fees from the patent process. He had debts from trying to keep his sewing business afloat during the Depression. After everything was paid, he had almost nothing. He continued working, running his tailoring shop, trying to make ends meet. In his later years, Garrett developed glaucoma. He went blind. He spent his final years in Cleveland, living modestly, nearly forgotten. On July 27, 1963, Garrett Morgan died. He was 86 years old. His obituary in the Cleveland Plain Dealer was 3 paragraphs. It mentioned that he invented a traffic signal and was involved in a tunnel rescue. No mention of saving 32 lives. No mention of how his invention changed the world. Just 3 paragraphs. Then silence. Meanwhile, General Electric continued making billions from traffic control systems. Let's talk about what Garrett Morgan actually created. The 3-position traffic signal didn't just make driving more convenient. It saved lives, tens of thousands of lives. Before the yellow light, intersection accidents were epidemic. The sudden change from green to red caused constant collisions. The yellow light gave drivers time to react, time to slow down, time to make decisions. Studies from the 1920s and 1930s showed that cities with 3-position signals saw traffic fatalities drop by 40 to 60%. In New York City alone, traffic deaths dropped from over 1,400 per year in 1922 to under 700 per year by 1928. Garrett's invention saved hundreds of lives per year in a single city. Multiply that by every city in America, every city in the world. Over the past century, the 3-position traffic signal has prevented millions of deaths. Millions. And Garrett Morgan received $40,000. General Electric turned traffic signals into an empire. By the 1950s, they controlled 70% of the traffic control market in the United States. They made signals, they made the control systems, they made the timers, the wiring, the poles, every component, every city that modernized. GE got the contract. By 1960, GE's traffic division was generating over $100 million per year in revenue. By 1980, over $500 million. Today, the global traffic management system market is worth over $50 billion annually. Every traffic light, every intersection, every smart traffic system, all descended from Garrett Morgan's 1923 patent he sold for $40,000. But the traffic light wasn't even his most important invention. The safety hood, the gas mask, was. During World War I, mustard gas and chlorine gas killed over 100,000 soldiers. The military gas masks used were based on Garrett's design. He never received credit, never received payment. After the war, fire departments slowly began adopting breathing apparatus for firefighters. All based on the same principle Garrett demonstrated in 1914, filtered air from a lower, cleaner source. By the 1930s, every major fire department had equipment descended from Garrett's invention. He received nothing. In the 1940s, industrial workers in factories and mines started using respirators. Same principle. Coal miners, chemical plant workers, painters working with toxic fumes, all using technology Garrett invented. He received nothing. Today, firefighters wear SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus, the direct descendant of the Morgan safety hood. Every firefighter who enters a burning building is using Garrett's invention. During COVID-19, when N95 masks and respirators became essential, the core principle was the same. Filter the air before it reaches your lungs. Garrett Morgan invented that principle, proved it worked, saved lives with it, and he died blind and poor. After Garrett's death in 1963, his family tried to get recognition for his inventions. They contacted the city of Cleveland, the Historical Society, the Smithsonian, some polite letters, some "we'll look into it" responses. nothing happened. In 1976, during the US bicentennial, there was a push to recognize forgotten inventors. Garrett Morgan's name came up. The city of Cleveland declared a Garrett Morgan Day. One day, then back to obscurity. In 1991, the U.S. Postal Service issued a stamp honoring Garrett Morgan, a stamp, 38 years after his death. In 2005, a traffic signal in Cleveland was dedicated in his honor, a plaque, a ceremony. The plaque read, Garrett Morgan, inventor of the traffic signal. No mention that he sold it for a fraction of its worth. No mention that he died poor. Just inventor, as if that was enough. In 2020, during renewed attention on black inventors, Garrett's story went viral on social media. Did you know a black man invented the traffic light? It became a factoid, a piece of trivia, something to share and forget. But here's what those posts didn't say. Garrett Morgan didn't just invent the traffic light. He proved it worked. He installed it. He saved lives with it. And then he was forced to sell it to a white-owned corporation for a tiny fraction of its value because he had no other option. That's not a feel-good story. That's theft. Systematic, legal theft. General Electric didn't hold Garrett at gunpoint. They didn't break into his shop and steal the patent. They didn't have to. They knew he couldn't manufacture the signals himself. No bank would loan him money. No city would buy from him. So they offered him $40,000. They knew it was insultingly low. They knew he had no choice, and he didn't. He took the money. He signed the papers. He walked away. And GE built an empire. This wasn't unique to Garrett Morgan. This was the system. This is still the system. Black inventors in the early 20th century faced impossible choices. Sell your patent for nothing, or watch someone steal it and get nothing at all. Jan Matzeliger invented a shoe-lasting machine that revolutionized the shoe industry. He sold his patent because he was dying and desperate. The company that bought it made hundreds of millions. Granville Woods invented the multiplex telegraph that allowed communication between train stations and moving trains. He sold his patents to Bell and Edison for fractions of their worth. Sarah Good invented the folding cabinet bed. She couldn't get manufacturers interested. A white-owned company released the same design 5 years later, over and over. The pattern was simple. Invent something brilliant, be denied the ability to profit from it, watch white-owned companies get rich. Garrett Morgan saved 32 lives in a single night. He invented technology that has saved millions of lives over a century. He received a medal, $40,000, and obscurity. Meanwhile, the companies that profited from his inventions are worth billions. GE's current market cap, over $100 billion. Garrett Morgan's estate when he died, less than $10,000. That's the math of injustice. Here's what makes this even worse. Garrett knew. In his later years, blind and struggling, he gave a few interviews. In one, a reporter asked if he had regrets. Garrett paused for a long time. I regret that I had to sell my inventions, he finally said. But I had no choice. No bank would fund me. No manufacturer would partner with me. I could either sell or watch someone take it anyway. At least by selling, I got something. At least by selling, I got something. That sentence should haunt us. A man who saved dozens of lives, who invented technology that saved millions more. Forced to accept scraps, and grateful for them. Because scraps were better than nothing. That was the choice, for Garrett. For countless black inventors, scraps or nothing, and we celebrate the scraps as success. Look, he got $40,000. He got a stamp. He got a day named after him. As if that's justice. As if that balances the scales. It doesn't. Every time you stop at a yellow light, you're using Garrett Morgan's invention. Every time you see a firefighter emerge safely from a burning building, they're using Garrett Morgan's invention. Every time a traffic system prevents an accident, that's Garrett Morgan's legacy. But his name isn't on any of it. GE didn't name their traffic division after him, didn't pay his family royalties, didn't build him a statue while he was alive to see it. They took his invention, filed off his name, and got rich. And that's still happening. In 2013, a black teenager named Lonnie Johnson invented the Super Soaker. It became the best-selling toy of the 1990s. He fought for years to get fair royalties. In 2019, a black woman named Dr. Hadia Nicole Green developed a cancer treatment using laser-activated nanoparticles. She struggled to get funding, while white-led teams with less promising research received millions. In 2023, black founders received less than 2% of venture capital funding, despite making up 13% of the population. The system hasn't changed. It's just quieter. Garrett Morgan should have died wealthy, famous, celebrated. Instead, he died blind and forgotten. And we give him a stamp and act like that's enough. It's not enough. Remembering isn't enough. Stamps aren't enough. Viral social media posts aren't enough. What would be enough is changing the system that made his story possible. A system that allows corporations to buy innovations from desperate inventors for nothing. A system that denies funding and opportunity based on race. A system that erases names and rewrites history. That system is still here. And until it changes, we're just creating more Garrett Morgans. More brilliant people forced to sell their genius for scraps. More lives saved by people who die poor. More inventions that change the world, credited to everyone except the inventor. Garrett Augustus Morgan, born 1877, died 1963, saved 32 lives in a single night, invented the gas mask that saved millions, invented the traffic signal that prevents countless deaths every day, received $40,000 and a medal. Died blind and nearly forgotten. Every time you stop at a yellow light, remember his name, not because it makes you feel good, but because he deserved better. And because this is still happening, remember Garrett Morgan, the man who saved lives and got nothing in return. Remember his name.